What is up, everybody? It is JT Sports. I am back to you guys with another video, and I'm here with my Tennessee Titans 2021 rec prediction. Going to be giving you guys my best case scenario, my worst case scenario, and my overall rec prediction for the Titans this upcoming season. Before I get into it, if you haven't already, make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel and that you turn on post notifications so you don't miss when I upload a new video. And most importantly, make sure that you guys hit that like button. That like button is really important because when you hit that like button, you help the channel rank higher in the YouTube search algorithm. If the channel ranks higher in the YouTube search algorithm, then the channel gets more views and you help the channel grow. So help a brother out. Hit that like button. It takes less than a second to do, and it is a free way to support the channel. The Titans last year won the AFC South. They went 11-5, and they pretty much got bounced out by the Baltimore Ravens as soon as they got into the playoffs. So not really the Cinderella run that they had the season before when they went on the road, beat New England, then beat Baltimore before losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. But when you look at Tennessee, this is a team that a lot of people feel is a Super Bowl contender with the addition of Julio Jones. Now, I don't believe that Julio Jones makes the Titans a Super Bowl contender because, quite frankly, I already believe that the Titans were a Super Bowl contender before they got Julio Jones. But I think what's going to decide how far Tennessee goes this year is going to be this defense. Now, last year, this defense was not great. And I think it was more because of the scheme and the coaching versus the talent. Like, yeah, you had a little bit of holes, but overall, Tennessee going into that 2020 NFL season last year had on paper a top 10 defense. So the fact that that defense underperformed the way that it did, I know you had some injuries alongside of there and whatnot, but overall, I feel like a large reason for the struggles Tennessee had defensively was due to the coaching, which is kind of hard to believe because Mike Vrabel is a defensive-minded coach. So I expect the defense to be somewhat improved this year, better this season than what it was last year. I think Mike Vrabel and that coaching staff should be able to make some adjustments. You got Jim Schwartz on that staff, so that should help improve the defense as well. A lot of Titans fans have been really excited about him joining the staff. They are expecting him to kind of have a little bit of an impact or a major impact in this defense, making a turnaround this season. Now, my best case scenario for Tennessee this year is going to be 13-4. This offense is going to be downright nasty. You already had Corey Davis and A.J. Brown, which was a really good tandem, but Corey Davis leaves in free agency for the New York Jets. So you had a hole there. We didn't know who was going to end up being the opposite side of A.J. Brown. Well, you upgraded because you bring in Julio Jones. Now, for all of you non-Titans fans out there, I don't want to hear no flack about Julio Jones being injury prone or whatnot, because I feel like that is a false narrative that people have about Julio Jones being injury prone, because the guy has been pretty healthy for pretty much the last couple of seasons of his career. Last year was the first time really in a long time that he missed several games due to injury. So I don't get how a guy has one season that he deals with injuries and then all of a sudden he's just this injury prone wide receiver that can't stay on the field. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So you have the tandem of Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. That's going to be pretty hard to stop. Then you have Derrick Henry, the human wrecking ball. We already know how difficult he is to stop. So this Tennessee Titans offense, man, is going to be downright scary. But, you know, I do have some concerns about the offense. I'm going to get to that a little bit later. And the defense, like I mentioned earlier, should improve. But my worst case scenario for Tennessee is going to be 9-8. Tennessee lost their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who is now the current head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. So I don't know how much this offense is going to change because Tennessee has had like a run-first mentality over the last couple of years. You look at Matt LaFleur, head coach of Green Bay, when he was the OC for Tennessee, run first. You look at Arthur Smith, when he was the OC for Tennessee, run first. I don't know what this new offensive coordinator, what his philosophy is going to be with Tennessee. Is he still going to have that run first mentality, or is he going to be a guy who prefers the spread the wealth in terms of throwing the football a little bit more versus running the football more in terms of what the previous offensive coordinators for Tennessee, what their philosophies have been. So I think that's going to be something really interesting. I want to see how the play calling offensively is going to look with the departure of Arthur Smith, with their new OC, and defensively. I know a lot of Tennessee Titans fans are expecting this defense to improve, and I am in that majority also. I expect the defense to improve, but what if this defense really doesn't improve? Okay, what if Bud Dupree proves that he isn't a Batman and he's more of a Robin? What if he's somebody who can't be your dominant one-on-one pass rusher? What if he's a guy who always has to have a great pass rusher on the opposite side of him? What if the secondary doesn't improve? What if Janoris Jenkins somehow Father Time catches up to him and he regresses? What if this defense still isn't as good as what it should be with the talent that they have? Those are things that you kind of have to factor into the equation. On top of that, this division, you have Indianapolis, and I do think that Jacksonville is going to steal a game from you. And I don't want to hear none of that. Oh, Jacksonville has a really good roster top to bottom. And I think that Jacksonville is going to be able to steal a game from both Tennessee and Indianapolis this year. So if everything goes left for Tennessee, I think they end up going 9-8. Now, before I get into my overall prediction, I want to tell you guys about my two biggest swing games for the Tennessee Titans this year. They're going to be Week 8 against the Indianapolis Colts and Week 15 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, that Indianapolis Colts game is really interesting because that is the first time that you're going to be facing the Colts this year. And that's a game that is going to be the first time that you're going to have two teams who should be competing for the division title this year matching up against each other. And whoever wins that game could have control of the division until their, next matchup if they end up meeting up in the playoffs pretty much. So you face the Colts really early in the season. You face them Week 3 and then you face them Week 8. So pretty much after you face Indianapolis, whether you win that game or not, your division is pretty much going to be in your control or out of your control depending on what happens. So if you beat Indianapolis, you have a pretty firm grasp on the division because Jacksonville, you're not going to lose 2 times against Jacksonville. You should be able to mop the floor with the Texans. So pretty much for Tennessee, if you're able to win that Week 8 matchup against Indianapolis, you don't have to face them no more, and you pretty much control the division in the palm of your hands. But it's going to be a really tough schedule from that point forward. You have to face the Rams. You have to face the Saints. You get a little bit of a break because you face Houston, who shouldn't be good. But then you got to go on the road and face New England. Then you get a bye week. You got to face Jacksonville. Then you got to face Pittsburgh on the road, which is another swing game because we saw how that Steelers game went last year. Came down to special teams. Special teams really costed Tennessee that Steelers game last year. And the Steelers are a really physical football team. This is a team that is really good when it comes to their defensive line. That defense is still going to be really good. And you're looking at a team that matches up pretty well with Tennessee's offense. You have cornerbacks on the outside. Yeah, you lost Steven Nelson, but I promise you that the guys that a lot of people don't really know about, such as James Pierre, Cam Sutton, Justin Lane, those guys are really talented. So you have a defense that is really good when it comes to what they're able to do when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback. They're going to be really good against the run with bringing back Devin Bush, who missed all of pretty much the whole entire season due to a season-ending injury. So that Steelers defense matches up very well against Tennessee's offense. But also, you're going to have a new-look Steelers team. You're going to have a Steelers team that isn't going to be bad offensively like it was the end of last year. And this is a Steelers team that's going to put a lot more emphasis on running the football than what they have been doing in the last couple of years. So I think that's a really big matchup, and that is a matchup that's going to have a lot of playoff implications because what if Tennessee loses to Indianapolis? What if Tennessee doesn't have control of the division and they have to get one of those last remaining playoff spots to get in? You're looking at Pittsburgh, which is also going to be competing for a playoff spot late in the season. So that's a really big game when it comes to playoff implications. Because for Tennessee, you're either going to be fighting for a spot in the playoffs or you're going to be fighting for trying to get that number 1 seed, trying to get that first round bye. So I think that's a really intriguing game when you look at, how it's going to affect the playoff picture in the AFC. My overall record prediction for Tennessee is going to be 10-7. I think Tennessee will win 10 games, and I do think that they will repeat as AFC South champions. This schedule isn't that difficult, but I do feel like they're going to split with Indianapolis. I feel like they will split with Jacksonville this year. So that's already, 2 losses right away. I think you could end up slipping up your first 2 games. You could either lose to Indianapolis or Seattle. I don't see Tennessee beating both of those 2 teams. I feel like they're going to take 1 loss during that stretch, so that's 3 losses there. I think you're lose to Kansas City, which I think that also could have been a swing game. So I think there are a good amount of losses that Tennessee could have on this schedule. Like I said, I do believe this defense should be better than what it was last year, but I'm not expecting a major improvement. I don't expect Tennessee's defense to go from what it was last year to amongst the best in the NFL. So you guys let me know your record prediction for the Tennessee Titans down in the comment section down below. Make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content, and thanks for watching.